What's up, everybody? Andrew from Fantasy Aid here, and the topic of the video today is how much should positional scarcity play into our draft strategy? Now, of course, there's no one-size-fit-all answer. It really depends on your league setup, league rules, how many people in your league, whether you're playing roto, points, or categories. But this is just going to be a general overview. I might get deeper in future videos as we head closer to spring training. But here's a little bit of what I want to mention. Now, obviously, when we say positional scarcity, the first thing that pops into anyone's mind, at least my mind, is catcher, because obviously catcher is the weakest of the positions for fantasy baseball purposes. And that's mostly because, defense doesn't counter into anything, and catchers generally aren't offensive except for the top guys like Lucroy, Sanchez, or Posey. Now, you always hear wait for catcher, and generally that's a good idea. You wait, you get a guy that can hit a good average and maybe give you a little pop like Cameron Rupp or like last year, JT Realmuto. I would stay away from your Realmuto this year as he's going way too high for my liking because he didn't have as much power as I was hoping he would have. He's still got a decent amount of stolen bases for a catcher, but really he's not worth where he's being drafted at the moment. But one of the key issues I noticed in positional scarcity this year is just top tier ace pitching. You don't have Felix Hernandez anymore. You don't have Adam Wainwright anymore. Matt Harvey. The list goes on. You can't count on any of those guys being a number one ace any longer. So the list has really narrowed. We thought we'd have a ton of pitching last year. It didn't happen. I mean, we did have some bright spots, some breakout candidates, but really pitching, there's not a lot of top tier pitching. So you really need to make sure in the first 4 or 5 rounds, grab at least one pitcher because there's not a lot of guys that you can count on as the number one ace that'll give you 220 innings, 200 Ks, 15 wins. John Lester, Max Scherzer, etc. There just isn't enough of those guys this year, so make sure you get that reliable number one starter. Now, of course, I talked about that there's a lot of upside middle tier pitching, but as of number one guys we know will be number ones, there just isn't much this year. Obviously, shortstop seems to be one of the deepest positions, but that doesn't mean you should wait on it because shortstop is a great way to get stolen bases early, and that way you don't have to take those one-dimensional steal guys to get those steals in the late rounds. Obviously you have VR last year, you have Lindor who's going to get stolen bases. There's a lot of stolen bases at the shortstop position. Now, Seager won't give you it, but Seager is one of my favorite shortstops. I used to draft because I like the guys with medium power, high average, and that's why I usually go for Seager. But, you can get Lindor's going to give you stolen bases, as I said, VR, and there's a lot more. And also, just think of the breakout candidates we had last year. Trevor Story with the Rockies, Aledmus Diaz with the Cardinals, Shortstop is just a really deep position. And outfield is deep in sleepers, but not really deep in high-end talent anymore. You got the sleepers, Benintendi, Josh Bell, Hunter Renfroe, Manuel Marquette. You have all these guys who have potential, but you don't have a lot of reliable guys. And outfield is another early place to get steals, You got Starling Marte, you got Charlie Blackmon. Those number one guys that could be your number one outfielder and get you steals, so you don't have to focus on that later. And just think, you're not going to draft Upton as your number one. At least I wouldn't draft Nelson Cruz as my number one outfielder. I know some people would, but I just don't trust him. Is he going to be David Ortiz for the rest of his career, where he just mashes home runs, or he's going to fall off? I don't know, and I don't want to rely on him as a number one guy. But it's kind of the same situation with outfield and pitching. There's a lot of middle tier outfielder with high upside. The guys I mentioned, and then you got other guys like second year Stephen Piscotty, Jackie Bradley Jr. All those guys that can have good talent, but you don't want to be their number one. So I would focus definitely on outfield early and starting pitching early. that's the biggest advice I can give. And there's good values later on, but obviously those are more upside picks. You want to at least have a number one pitcher, a number one, and maybe a good solid number two outfielder before you dive in. And finally, I'll touch quickly on closers. It was either, I don't remember exact number, but it was either 24 or 26 closers had their job taken away last year, whether that was due to injury, just being bad, or trades. So it's the closer carousel. It's so easy. I found it so easy to find closers on the waiver ladder last year. If you're active, you will be able to snag them. So if you want to get one of those one reliable guys in like the 8th or 10th round, get yourself a Chapman or a Jansen or a Britton. That's fine, but towards the middle rounds, I wouldn't really draft the guys. If you want to go for possible closer, lower end closers toward the end to start out your early team to accumulate those saves, that's fine. But it's just if you're active in a league, you should be able to fill closers no matter where you draft them or not. Now, obviously, it's in roto leagues you want to get those saves right away, so you want to have some closers in your lineup. But closers are one of the easiest thing I find to just snag off the wire because it's just such a fluid situation with so many teams. So that is my thoughts, general thoughts on positional scarcity. This is actually my 1 year anniversary. I posted my first video January 14th of last year. So I want to thank everyone that's watched my videos. I love interacting with the community. For Fantasy 8, I'm Andrew. Thanks for watching.